Welcome to 2024. I don't know about you guys, it's my first day back at working a little bit, so just getting started again. I saw there was also not too much on the agenda, or actually nothing on the agenda for this meeting, the document. So have an open meeting, whatever folks have on their minds. Let's discuss. Maybe everybody's mind is still on vacation or trying to get back into gear. So maybe we'll have a quick meeting this day.
I'm right now looking on false assertion in live lists that seems to be affecting. No, it was right now was triggered by block cloning, but seems like it affected dedupe also. I've reproduced it with dedupe, so it's weird that it's probably exist for a while.
Did you say with envy lists? Oh, no, you say a false assertion that exists. Got it.
Yeah. It's live list trying to assert when it see duplicate freed blocks, it tries to assert it's dedupe, but it can be not only dedupe, it can be also block cloning. That's one issue.
Oh,
That's a new issue. And another issue happens when it tries to assert that blocks should have identical burst time, but they should have identical feed bursts, not bursts.
Oh, interesting.
And that's probably existing for a long time.
All right.
But did anybody see any other issues with block cloning, or we're otherwise doing okay?
No, I think I've actually stamped out quite a lot of them in the last few weeks, eh? I think there was one just landed on the issue tracker a couple of hours ago, but I haven't looked at it yet. But yeah, got lots. It's good.
No, a lot of fixed. I mean, is there anything that's still left open?
Yeah.
I haven't seen.
I don't think many. I said, or even any. I think there was this. I think there was one about an hour or two ago, but I haven't looked at it yet. So we will see. But it's good. It's going to be good to have that done. Good work, Alexander. You've knocked a lot of those over.
Thanks to you too for a lot of help on random things. There is PR open to merge it all to 2.2. So I wonder when are we going to merge that, and what's our potential future plans for re-enabling it in 2.2.
I mean, I don't know. That's mostly Brian questions. I think I'd probably argue for it. It needs, one whole release where we don't where we think we've got it all or almost all. But yeah, something like that. But that's promising. Maybe for 2.2, what are we up to? 2.3, maybe 5, 2.2.5.
I was thinking 4. Like if this 2.3 will be fixed, then 2.4.
Oh yeah, 4. Enabled. 4. I couldn't remember if we had 2 or 3 out yet. Yeah, no. So 4 might be nice. I would like that a lot.
Can we talk broadly about testing and what might have prevented the fallout we saw related to block cloning? I've heard various comments in the field, and it's like, wait a minute, we can't make these mistakes. And it was, Alexander beautifully described it as a perfect storm on a production user call, but just let me know and everyone else know on the outside how we can help to prevent such things.
I mean, what I've been saying to people is that mostly it's like it's a chicken egg kind of thing. Like it was a big complicated feature that was and is that was sort of highly requested, and there was a lot of excitement about it. So we wanted to make it go, but there's a limited as always, there's a limited amount of time for review and a limited amount of understanding. It's complicated in a large amount of code. Like I pretty much get it now, not all of it. I didn't at the time, and that was only, maybe sort of 10 months ago, when there was a push for review. So it's like it's the age-old problem in open source, and I don't really know what to do with that other than people who really, really want it, if they could, pay for some time or use some of their own time or take other things off of the plate of the people who open time for them. And I know how unsatisfying an answer that is, and I know you get it as well. But I mean, that's all I've got, and I've been thinking about it for the last few weeks. So
it's all true, and inversely, I don't think we've even seen some of the potential of the feature. So it's remarkable. So I'm not blaming anyone. It's just like, okay, how do we communicate what will be capable and experiment, test some of that in advance as best we can imagine, because hey, we'll find these edge cases because we're in totally new territory. So
yeah,
just saying.
It would definitely help. Would we have more wild world users of ZFS master? We have FreeBSD master main synced with ZFS master, but exactly when dedupe was enabled, there was several months when it wasn't updated, and at least we lost there some part of potential testers. I wonder, is there anybody using ZFS main on Linux? ZFS master, sorry, it's confusion.
Yeah.
With FreeBSD, we have FreeBSD currents that used by many developers and even some community, and I personally run FreeBSD main on even my laptop, desktop, and everything. I wonder, maybe not distributions, but at least, is there anybody running ZFS main on Linux anywhere? Is it, maybe we could improve its usability, make it easier for people to use by making some packages. So I don't know what we could do. I'm not familiar with distribution process.
Yeah, that's an
a good
interesting
point.
thought. Like, we've been looking at making, packages of even just ZFS 2.2 for like the current Ubuntu LTS 2204, because people want the newer performance fixes and so on, but the version that comes with Ubuntu is still 2.1.5, and there's a really nice fix in 2.1.6 even from Alexander for the log space map. And so yeah, I think maybe it makes sense to have it be much easier to be able to run ZFS master on common Linux distributions for people to try things out, so that it's a bit easier, and have that roll into especially our RC process. Like, Brian did a whole bunch of release candidates, but if they're not very easy for people to try to use, then they get some testing in a VM, not the real world usage that tends to actually find bugs.
Yeah, I think making Ubuntu packages available for, doing a build every week off of the main branch, or something like that, and having that be like an official thing that the project supplies would probably go a long ways towards helping people test, use and test, and probably find bugs in, and maybe create more pressure for us as well, because people would probably be using it in production environments. But that's probably a good trade-off to make, with appropriate disclaimers and whatnot. I think that, I think that we just haven't, gotten the resources that, the people that would be willing to maintain that going forward, because it's not just a one-time thing, right? It's like you got to make this thing keep working and keep putting them out every week or whatever.
Yeah, especially
whatever it is. So
Ubuntu keeps changing their kernel, and so your package has to match.
Yeah. So we essentially do that at Delphix, like for our own distribution, because we're using Ubuntu. We're using Ubuntu packages, but we're on like an older version of Ubuntu, 2004, I think, which doesn't change that quickly.
I think the point about pressure is really the pressure it puts on us is really important though, because if we do it, it'll be exciting for a little while, and people will try it, and things will blow up, and they will turn up and file bug reports and try to help. And if we are not able to, not necessarily fix, but not able to respond and engage sort of at the same pace, it will drop off very quickly, and it'll just be, it'll be a reputation loss and not much else. So I think it's a good idea, but it's got to be done. we got to really want it.
I think it's the only way. Like before we roll releases to wider community, we should roll them to master to some early tester, early adopters. Because, for example, we mentioned the same block cloning, many of issues were found by just random people, random FreeBSD developers who run in some package builders, building and so on. Just actually appeared that package building does a lot of operations that were affected by block cloning, by other issues. That's quite representative. And even if builder lose file system, so who cares? It's a builder that you can restart them more or less. It's a pain, obviously, but it's not a critical data loss. So I think there could be that group of people, and if we could get feedback from them, it's the only way to get more reliable in issues like this.
Yeah, and to Rob's point, if people do file bug reports and then they just get closed by the stale bot or something, that doesn't work very well. But I wonder if we could add some more, not necessarily like the pre-commit CI we have now, but tests where we try the ZFS master branch and do FreeBSD package building with it, just to try to shake out those issues. But I think trying to measure how successful it was and if anything went wrong somewhere in it is not something that's that easy to automate, right?
Well, it's probably difficult by itself, just moving target package building. There are so many failures that hard to say where it was failure of ZFS versus failure of package.
Right.
Unless it's kernel panic.
Do through like our some of our own individual contacts and that sort of thing, would we be able to pull together a half a dozen sort of very interested ZFS users who perhaps have easy access to interesting or heavy workloads that might be in the position, if approached, to say, hey, we're trying to set up this thing to more regularly test our master branch. Could we do something so when we're ready, we push a button, or you give us an API endpoint, we push it, and that runs some representative workload on your system? Do we have, they might not be programmers or otherwise able to help, but can we, we might all know one interested customer or user or friend who might be interested to help out in that kind of way if we approach them with something specific. I don't know.
I think that we might. I wouldn't necessarily go with something specific like that. Like, hey, can we have a button that does this specific thing? I would more push it as like, hey, like you want ZFS to be quality. Here's a way that, like, how can you help us? Like, we need more testing on the main branch. How can you help us to test on the main branch? Because it's probably gonna be a different answer for each one of those depending on their, like a lot of people might be like, oh yeah, like I already build my own ZFS or whatever. Like, but I'm annoyed that when I file bug reports, they go to the stale bot or what, and other people might be like, oh yeah, like I just need I need an Ubuntu package for this release. So if you give it to me, then sure, we'll do something. And other people might have other, ways that they would consume the bits.
Have
Yeah,
the quick
ahead.
one, Alan. Have the amazing companies at the table compared notes on what you're already doing for testing without changing a single thing?
Not
Might be a
really.
good start because the talent is here.
Yeah.
Many of
This
the
year
resources are here. Go ahead.
we have more of a commitment to try to add more of our customers' use cases to the ZFS test suite so that more stuff, different workloads actually get tested, and doing more of that. But also, we're starting to look at building, like I said, ZFS 2.2 packages for Ubuntu 2204. So that should be relatively easy to extend that to also building master in a different directory and having that repo exist as well. That's something we could probably do. Although I kind of agree with Matt that at some point maybe that makes more sense to be something that's official from the ZFS project, but we can maybe at least get it started and see how it goes and do a pilot program of it before the project takes on that burden. Maybe see how often people are actually using it before we the project tries to stand up its own infrastructure for that. Does that make sense, Matt, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the hardest thing is getting like the people that are willing to do it. And I think that there is a difference between doing master versus doing releases because releases don't come along very often. So you can get away with a lot more manual steps.
Yep.
And less, human involvement. I think that we could pretty easily, like if you need some VMs or whatever, like, yeah, I mean, we have an AWS account, we can like set up stuff there to, as far as like machines and build infrastructure. It's more like somebody that's going to own it and drive it and,
Keep it working.
figure out how to set up all that stuff and keep it working and all that. So like if you're planning to do that like human work anyways, then like I would be happy for you to do it as an official OpenZFS thing. If you want to, if you're willing. But yeah, I would probably start with just doing releases and kind of see how that is for your workload level. And then and like also like adoption, like how much people use it and like it. And then reevaluate the weekly releases, weekly builds of master like after a few months or whatever.
Right.
Even if it would be monthly, not weekly, it would still be better than once per year creation
Yeah.
of new branch that breaks everything.
For sure.
Yep. And I think, there's a lot of people that would be happy to not wait that long to get some of the new features.
I mentioned in chat that FreeBSD has had weekly snapshots that were initially motivated by, hey, everyone don't break my build, but some people use those quite enthusiastically. So I think that there is a hunger there for any such resources.
Yeah, I think that it's a little bit different with FreeBSD because it's like the whole operating system,
Mhm.
So like ZFS gets to kind of participate in that existing infrastructure and enthusiasm around like running FreeBSD main. But we're stuck on like all these other distros that have other, much older releases, and they don't have, I mean, there isn't, as far as I know, like people aren't like running, there isn't some like nightly Ubuntu that people are running. I mean, they have like the non-LTS releases that come out every quarter. but that's still a long ways from like every week or even every month. And it'd be a lot more work for us to like integrate with that of saying like, oh yeah, like every
Well,
you know,
especially if we have to
every
target
quarter
like
we're gonna do something.
Ubuntu, this version and that version, and the hardware enablement kernel versus not, and then
Yeah, exactly. So
what
you have
about
to,
people that use something other than Ubuntu that's, you know, one of the other Linuxes and so on? It can quickly get out of control.
yeah,
But
you have to
if we
choose
can,
which ones you're going to build against. And it's
yeah,
probably going to be like, well, like 1 or 2 LTS releases of Ubuntu
Mhm.
you're going to build against, right? Not like
Yeah.
every possible thing.
Mhm.
And hopefully you'd get buy-in from those projects so you're not completely carrying all the weight.
Yeah, but I think that you probably won't get a lot of buy-in from like Ubuntu. You know, they're kind of doing their own thing with ZFS, and they might be like willing to coordinate on some like tooling, you know, like on uh the packaging files, you know, making it work for them and for us. But
Yeah.
aside from that, I wouldn't expect a lot.
I was going to ask you, Matt, do you maintain statistics on differing users of OpenZFS and downloads for test cycles, release cycles?
Yeah, I think the Livermore guys do. I mean, most of those, it's the Red Hat, you know, builds that those are like the official builds that they're tracking the downloads of. And I think that Tony Hutter gave a talk like several years ago, maybe like 5 years ago or something, about like who's using ZFS on Linux and sharing some of those statistics. So I bet we could get him to update those or make them available if you're curious.
Do
Yeah,
they
that
still
was-
make RPMs?
Maybe
I
not
can't find
anymore.
them
They did
anymore.
for quite a while.
Yes, I know they did for a long time, but
Okay.
like the ZFS on Linux page has just tarballs
Is
and
that
links
right?
to the GitHub releases.
Okay, maybe not anymore then. I don't know because I
Or
haven't used
maybe
Red
just,
Hat.
yeah, I haven't used Red Hat in a while.
When is that downloading? The link is to the the link is to Tarball. Yeah, maybe not then.
So,
I don't think we'll solve it today, but that's food for thought as we revise all of our processes for the coming year.
Yeah. All right. Other topics for today? Oh, I see Rob posted the link. So okay, so there are official RPMs there.
They're hidden somewhere. I can find the link to that.
But yeah, I think that
Yeah.
Tony's been working on like a bunch of our AWS infrastructure for building stuff. So he would be the one to talk with about like setting up any kind of build stuff that you're interested in.
Mhm.
I have a super quick follow-up from a Slack conversation. I absolutely love the feature flag matrix that I've posted. I sincerely hope that's automatically generated. And if so, should Grub be a platform or whatever you call them that has its list of features? Because if I'm not mistaken, it's either bundled in main or I don't know what.
Grub is separate, right? Like we don't have the source, you know, the Grub ZFS support lives in Grub, not in
Okay.
are
Right. But I think somebody
this?
added the compatibility.d file for it
Oh,
in the last
correct.
couple of days.
It's, oh, okay.
So that you can create a pool and
Yes.
specifically target it being compatible with Grub.
File was there for a while, but we've updated it to the latest state. Science grab imports pull read-only, so we can enable all read-only features, all write features. So on a read, it still has this requirement, but on write, we don't have way to express enable all write, but at least we can update the list.
Can that be slurped into the matrix?
So that's the question, whether it's automatically updated. If it's not, then somebody may need to go and check it.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't remember how this data was generated, so I'm not sure. But it does make sense to add grub version X. What does it support? Obviously, it supports all of the all, like, you only really care about the features that are read-only compatible. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
So
Does Grub
Rob,
have releases yet? There was a time there that they went years between releases. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know how you identify, a version of Grub or whatever.
Okay.
yeah, I don't know.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Other topics for today?
Rob, we just got another hit on the alignment bio splitting issue on Linux. What's the status of your PR for that?
I've got one more round of fix I have to do. I thought it was ready, but CentOS 7 threw something up, which is an actual issue. It's small. It's all in the PR, so I won't rehash it all. But I would hope to be landing it. I'm back at work next week. I'm still actually on vacation, so I'd be hoping to get it sorted out at the start of next week, and hopefully landing into next week. And yeah, and then for that particular customer, I'll have a backport ready to go for them at the same time.
Cool. Has anyone else seen issues where Linux reports that you're trying to write to a disk with an offset in length that's not aligned to the sector size, and so the SCSI layer in Linux actually refuses to write and errors out?
We always enforce a shift or for case, so it's probably never affect us. At least we never see it.
Yeah, we were seeing, not that that's readable in Slack there, or Zoom, but yeah, they're just getting write errors when trying to write because the size doesn't make sense. You can see it's writing 128 4K segments and then 2 segments, and I guess it's because of a gang block allocation or something, and it ends up that they're not 4K aligned, and so the device is like, you can't start writing, offset, or the end of it is offset because of the 512 byte gang block header.
So
even so, other people had seen this before.
So header is 512. I remember lower level of ZFS always copies the buffer into one 4K aligned, no, A shift aligned. So it shouldn't matter. The rest should be filled by
so
zeros.
ZFS does it all right, and then when it gets broken up into the BIOS to go to the Linux block layer, because of that 512 offset, everything's offset, and so the end, it pads it
Yes.
out, but then when it splits it into two separate writes because it's too many segments, it's not aligned anymore.
But there shouldn't be anything 512 aligned. It should be
Yeah,
all aligned.
no,
Right,
it's
so
because
when it puts the 512 header on, it puts a trailer on to match so that it's 4K aligned. But then the number of segments is more than Linux will take in one go, and so when we split it up, it's not aligned.
No,
Rob could
it's-
maybe explain it better.
it's on the PR, but it's because the way it fills the bio with pages, it always breaks it on a memory page boundary. So you can get, say, two segments that are, say, even say a 4K allocation, if they go across two memory pages, which happens if it comes out of a like a larger slab or like a packed in slab, it can have, like part of a say like 3.5K in one segment and 1.5K in the next segment.
Yeah, but
And-
where from are we getting those misaligned buffers originally?
They come out of they can come out of the slabs that we allocate. Because we allocate a large slab for, like, say, a 1.5K allocation or something. So we'll just pack them in, and those can cross individual page boundaries, even though they are a large physical contiguous range.
Oh yeah, but on a pool with a shift of 12, we should never use slabs, not multiple of 4K. So it should all be aligned. It's maybe,
but it's not if we allocate I forget it all. It's like three separate things. It's all written in the PR. It can happen if you have gang. That's right, gang ABDs, because they are if you have this is separate things. If you have a gang block, so you have a 512 allocation and then other ABDs hanging off it, and then is that it? And then you have an aggregation as well, which is just pulling more ABDs together. You have all these non-contiguous ABDs that are sort of treated as one whole thing. And when it rolls through to fill the bio, if it runs into the end of one of the ABDs, it will just stop, and the start of the next one will go into this is making no sense. This is the worst explanation ever. I kind of want to say, trust me, it's there. Like I can reproduce it fairly easily. So, but ultimately it comes down to, we have a single logical like IO, one ABD in a ZO that can be composed of smaller bits of memory, whether they're smaller ABDs or smaller not allocations, but allocations that span physical memory pages. And the way they get filled into the bio is it will never cross a page boundary going into a single segment. And so you end up with these, potentially differently sized pieces. And that's okay until the block layer in Linux decides that it's too big, or a driver decides it's too big, goes to split it, which is literally pick a chop point, create two bios, put one lot of segments in the other, and then it hits at a point such that the two pieces are not properly aligned, start and end. So it's hard to, it's rare, but it happens more when you have the conditions that there are a lot of kind of, I'll hand wave and say small pieces inside that larger logical ABD, which happens when you have gang blocks, your pool is full and fragmented, and also if you have gang ABDs in play, which happen when you get large aggregated writes. I'm sorry.
I was just asking if
it's
anybody
not
else had.
It's so rough. So yeah, so that's when you hit it. Oh, and then a driver that cares about it, which NVMe does not, and Loop does, but will not. Let's say anything with like DM or Lux or anything like that, care but won't post log messages. But the SCSI driver cares and will log about it. So
I think it's in particular when the hardware says no, I'm only going to take full 4K bits.
Yes.
Yeah. I was just asking if anybody had seen this in the wild, because we have customers seeing this with just Ubuntu 22.04's default ZFS 2.15, and just large record size and some fragmentation resulting in write errors for no reason. And for now, as a workaround, we just have them lowering the aggregation size so that it never tries to put that many segments in one bio.
Maybe we just got unlucky.
I do wonder if we could have some better way to collect the strange things we've seen in the wild, to try to correlate. Is this something that's only happening to this one person, or is this something that's been seen in more places?
I suppose is that just bug reports and then triage?
Possibly,
just, joining those together and maybe trying to ask more widely. Seen this?
Yeah, I was just taking a look at your PR. It looks very interesting. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
I saw that Alexander already started looking at it, so appreciate that.
Yeah. I've been using it. I mean, it's a small test case, but I've been running it locally, sort of daily driver for the last month. And I mean, I never saw it before, but at least I haven't lost any data or anything. And I think Brian's been doing some much heavier testing on some of his D-RAID pools, and it's shaken out a couple of bugs, and that's looking all right too. So one thing that is in there is we'll be shipping it with a module load option to switch between the old one or the new one, just because the old one has been in service for a long time, so it allows people to, if they're having this problem, and we think that this is causing some problems on Lux as well. So if they're having this problem, they can try it, but anyone can go back to the old one if they need to, or whichever way, just to have a chance of getting more, be able to put it into a release into 2.2 off by default, so we can give people options. And so hopefully it's safe, but it's it's old and heavily used existing code, so it's has to be treated with some caution.
in the master branch, is it going to be new behavior by default?
Yeah, new by default on master and old by default on 2.2 and maybe 2.1 if it goes into there.
Makes sense.
But yeah, that kind of gets back to Alexander's point of having it on by default in master is only useful if other people are using master. And so, yeah, if we can maybe get some packages available, that might help.
It would also be useful to have packages for just the most recent, like 2.1. Ubuntu basically doesn't seem to update their code.
Right. They're still on 2.15
after
and
release. So yeah,
Mhm.
I'd be really nice to be on the, because there's this latest thing that only showed up when block copy was enabled, but had been there for years. That doesn't look like they're going to take that. And the one you're just talking about is certainly worth having. So if there's an easy way to package it, that would be great.
yeah, I think we'll start with 2.2 and go from there. But yeah, we'd definitely like to see people's interest level in that.
Cool. Any other topics for today? All right. Then
Don, did you want to give a short update on the parallel zpool import?
Sure. George, we have a branch that George and us at Claire are working on, iterating on, and so far it's looking really good. We found some anomalies, or I mean, things that you don't see normally. Like, for example, you think once you have a parallel, then you should be able to do like an zpool status to a pool that's not, not being imported, right? And that works. But when we did IOStat, turns out IOStat is like trying to look at all the pools and it gets hung up on the one that's being imported. So I think we need to redo some of the logic in zpool, the zpool command itself. The kernel's fine, but in the command, it's like it's going off and getting entangled in that pool for a couple of commands. It's like you can do
Yeah.
zpool, add is fine. You can do all kinds of stuff, but like set properties and IOStat in particular get entangled. So we have to figure out that. That's just kind of icing on the cake of the actual problem we're trying to solve. But
I'm wondering if for both of those, if it's the code that tries to determine if a name is a pool or a VDEV.
yeah, there's a function called is this a pool name, and then it iterates over all the pools and gets their properties. It's like, well, that's not going to work. So
Yeah.
what we should do just do implicitly, like ask the kernel, is this a pool? Like, and if it'll say, I think it'll say no if it's in the middle of being imported, but I'll have to double check that. But
Something like that, or especially in the case where you provide exactly one name, we should just assume it's a pool anyway. Right? Like if you just
yeah,
did zpool iostat pool name, it shouldn't be using that function anyway, I don't think.
I would think
But,
so. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, in the property case, it's a little more complicated
Yes.
because of the VDEV properties. So it has to figure out what you're talking about. But yeah.
But even there, it's always going to be a pool name and then some VDEV names. So if there's only a pool name, it shouldn't need to call that. But yeah, if there's multiple parameters, there is, and we don't want it to get hung there. Exactly.
Yeah, I got to make sure that I understand it and then make sure that we have test coverage so that we don't regress it. But other than that, it's pretty cool. I mean, I actually introduced a Z injector so we can add delays so we can have more deterministic tests. I was trying to do it organically, but you get these weird things going on. So, but yeah, so it's going to be nice to have that, certainly for people that are using multiple pools. And trying to do some tight control, like do something. It's like we've seen it over the history of CFS where someone has a namespace lock, like an import or an export. Yeah, the other follow-on thing is for export is to also do a similar thing. So if you're doing a long export, you're not holding the namespace lock.
Yep. And then a natural addenda to that possibly might be looking at having draining the arc be asynchronous a little bit. I don't know how practical it is, but if you have a pool, a system with a lot of memory, and your pool is imported and your arc is full, the zpool export can spend a lot of time just freeing all of the objects in the arc, and that blocks the zpool export finishing. And if you're doing it for the case of an HA failover to another machine, you can clean up the memory after, let the pool be working on the other machine in the meantime, right?
Yes, it would definitely be good. I was thinking about it too from HA perspective. That's why we had to currently kill currently active node during failover in most cases, since we can't export pool in time. But I wonder what happens if somebody will try to re-import pool with same pool or pool just with same GUID. While we have anything left in ARC, we can't import it unless or we get mess.
Right. Well, because I think in the ARC it's going to be a reference to a pointer to a specific spotty, and so the same pool might be okay, or is it not? Does it use the GUID in the hash maybe?
Same pool probably okay, except what to do with reclamation process. It should be stopped. But if it somehow ended up, can it be different pool with same GUID? Then
well, yeah, I think you wouldn't want to stop the reclamation process because you don't know if something changed on the pool between the export and the import, right?
Yeah, potentially true.
Yeah, because in all your cache, you could think you have the latest data when you don't.
Who knows where pool was in those seconds or minutes?
Yeah, most likely on the other node being written to, right?
Yeah, just depends how long that export can take.
Yeah,
it shouldn't take hours, but
right.
as hypothetical case.
Yeah. Yeah. Now on a follow-on, which I think we did at Code, it's like if you're removing the L2 cache, right? It's like, and you want to get control back, you don't have to wait for all the memory reclamation going on. So you can do that asynchronously.
But yeah, trying to whittle down the amount of time the SPA namespace lock is held in various places, I think helps everything.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, anything else for today's meeting? Looks like the next one will be also in January 30th. So look forward to seeing you all then. See you.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Bye.
Everyone.
Happy New Year.